He grew up in Georgia. He played for the Gators. Those facts alone offered Chaz Henry an instant conversation starter. But that's just part of the story. Most knew Henry was one of the nation's top punters. Both Gator fans knew Henry had taken over the place-kicking duties earlier in the season for injured Caleb Sturgis. In Henry's signature moment at Florida, he etched his place into the lore of the Florida-Georgia rivalry, one of college football's greatest showcases yearly on the banks of the St. Johns River in Jacksonville. In the 2010 game with the Gators and Bulldogs tied at 34 in overtime, Henry stepped onto the field with an opportunity to win the game.
To win the game, Florida, Georgia. There's the snap. Set down, kick is up, on the way, it looks good, and it is good! Oh my! Florida beats Georgia on an overtime field goal from Chaz Henry! Oh my!
What did you think after you struck the ball?
I knew it felt good. Our holder did a great job, and it was a perfect snap, perfect hold. It came off my foot, really well.
Henry's clutch kick and a victory over Penn State in the Outback Bowl were the highlights of the final season for Urban Meyer at Florida.
There's the snap, set down, kick is up, and it is good. Third field goal today for Chaz Henry, career best.
Henry finished his career by being named the 2010 Ray Guy Award winner, honoring the nation's top punter. He earned consensus first-time All-American honors. Those accomplishments are impressive, but when the conversation turns to Henry, it invariably leads to the clutch kick to beat the Bulldogs. From now on, they can call Chaz Henry a UF Athletic Hall of Famer.
Chaz Henry, everybody. Good to see you.
Like up on people's shoulders. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, just like Rudy.
Yeah.
And you get us an
Get a movie made after.
That's right, yeah. I think so.
Well, and the movie may have never been made. You probably have the shortest route, at least so far, of the people coming here, just up the road in Georgia a little bit. But I mean, there was that other orange that was probably liked in your family.
There was. It's an off shade, though.
Yeah. How'd you get to come here?
So I'd be remiss if I didn't actually bring up Chuck Heater, a wonderful coach. He decided he had nothing else better to do, so he went to a kicking combine in South Florida one time. Happened to see me punting there and invited me to come up here. Came out and tried out for Urban 3 times. He really put me through the ringer up here, and eventually got the call. And I remember it just like it was yesterday. And Coach Meyer comes in and he tells me and my dad. He goes, "Well, listen." He goes, "I want you to come in and be here in the morning at the office at 8:30." "All right, Coach, I'll be there. 7:30, I'll be there." "Okay, well, I'll be here at 8:30. I'm like, "Okay, all right, great." So I go out and my dad and I are talking, and I didn't have any offers at the time. So my dad looks at me and he goes, "Well, Chaz, what do you think is going to happen?" I go, "Well, I think he's going to offer me a scholarship, but I kind of want to think this through." And he goes, "Okay, well, what are you going to say to him?" I'm like, "Well, Coach, I appreciate the offer. I really want to make sure that I'm making the right decision for myself and it's the right fit. But I appreciate the offer, and right now I feel very strong about this, but I really would like to take a look at some other schools." And he goes, "Well, that's a great answer. Yeah, I like that." So we go in, and Urban being Urban, I go into the office the next morning. We sit down, and he's got there's a lot of guys here that played with Urban, and Spikes, I know, is here. He heard the whole thing too. I want the 1% of the 1%. I don't care if you're great. I want the best. And he goes through and he lays out this whole book of we're a top 5 academic institution. We're going to win national championships here. Going on, and I'm just sitting there on the edge of my seat at this point. I'm like, all right, I'm in. Yeah, this is
Do it.
And so he goes, "Now, I'm going to offer you a scholarship to the University of Florida. Do you want to be a Gator?" I said, "Yes, sir, I do." Jump in right there. And that was it. And never even considered anybody else.
Tried the slow play. And
it didn't work for me too well. I'm a bad negotiator, I guess. Yeah.
Well, lots of kickers have a soccer background, or I guess if you were kicking now, you'd have to have an Australian accent, it seems like.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, thank God that was 15 years before me. I learned it actually from an Australian guy when I was in the NFL. He was phenomenal at it, and I hit, I think, 2 punts in the end zone, and Andy Reid was my coach in Philadelphia, and he goes, "You do that one more time, and you're out of here." And I'm like, all right, I got to figure out how to do this then. So I met an Australian guy. He showed me in the offseason, and it worked out. But, it's a great tool.
When did you realize the kicking was your thing?
When I started getting recruited and they said, "Hey," I was like, "Well, I like to play quarterback too. I'm a pretty good high school quarterback." And they're like, "Well, yeah, but here's Cam Newton. Here's what he looks like." And you're pretty good at kicking the balls. Just do that. So it's okay. All right, fair enough.
But let's go back to those high school games, because if you're a quarterback, you obviously got some skills. And gosh, I'll never forget the fake punt against Hawaii.
Yeah.
I mean, some wheels there. You're cruising. You're doing your thing. Like, how cool is that to execute some of those? Because you don't get to do it too often.
So the funny story about that one, there's actually two funny parts of it. Number one is that was the first game of our 2008 season.
Yeah.
Home game. We got we thought we were pretty good. We didn't know how good we were yet, but we thought we were pretty good. We come out, and at this point, freshman year, any fake punts we had, Urban was very specific. You do not run the ball. I don't care if there's nowhere between you and the end zone and it's wide open and there's 75 yards in front of you or 2 yards in front of you. You don't run the ball. All right, fair enough. Well, sophomore year, I was ready to take a chance. So I'd forgotten that on third down, because the last I remembered it was like 3rd and 6. I'd forgotten we had about a 10-yard loss on the play on third down, because I'm in my head going, okay, 4th down, punt it, rugby style, we're going to get out of here. It was 4th and 17, and I had forgotten that aspect of it. And this is the first drive, and if anybody was at this game, whatever it was, 14, 16 years ago, Napa Auto Parts was actually one of the sponsors. And if the Gators scored a touchdown, you got a free gallon of washer fluid if the Gators scored a touchdown on the first drive of the third quarter. Big time moment in the game, by the way, too. So it's 4th and 17. I jog out there and I catch it, and I'm not allowed to run. And I catch it. I'm like, I'll just take another 2 steps and just give our guys some time to run downfield. There's nobody there. And these are big Samoan guys, too. And I'm like, I can outrun at least one of them. I better be. So I take off, and all of a sudden, I'm looking for the first down marker. It was right over here. It was right through this stretch right here. And I start looking, and I'm like, where is the first down marker? Like, it should be, like, right here.
6 yards.
Way downfield. So then I hear the huffing and puffing, a big Hawaiian guy behind me. And I'm like, I better make this. And if I don't make it, I'm just going to stay on the sideline because I'm not going to see Urban on the other side. So I get the first down by a yard, step out of bounds, don't take a hit, get out of bounds, toss the ball to the ref, jog across. And Urban's just sitting there, and he's just pointing at me. He was right there, and he's pointing at me, and he just throws his arms up, and he goes, good play.
Nice. Baby.
Yeah. And Gators go down and score a touchdown, and everybody got a free gallon of washer fluid. You're welcome. It was probably the highlight of my career.
So if you were one of those, there you go. He is the reason why he saved your like $3.
That's right.
So that is awesome.
Inflation now, it's $5, so you got a deal back then.
You do, very. And how cool of a deal was that to make that kick against Georgia? I mean, the rivalry.
Yeah, it meant a lot. And it really, really meant a lot because, and I'll never forget this, I know he's here tonight. I had a chance to talk with him. But Jeremy Foley, it was a tough stretch, and, I had to replace a Gator great. Caleb had an injury that year, and I had to step in. And another I won't ever forget is we go in, and Caleb had injured his back, and we were working out, and I know he said, hey, I got to go get some x-rays, comes back, and didn't see him the rest of the day. And then Urban calls me and he goes, hey, I need you to come see me, after school today. And I'm like, okay. He goes, before practice. And I'm like, oh, all right. And I'm like, well, I haven't done anything wrong. Like, I should be in pretty good standing.
You were at
trouble yet. I wasn't at any swimming parties.
Yeah, that's right.
And by the way, that is absolutely dead accurate too. Like dead accurate. Women's swimming, oof, that's another gear.
Yeah.
So we'll leave that there for the night.
Yeah.
So I go in and coach looks at me and very quickly conversation. He goes, hey, listen, Caleb's out for the rest of the year. You're kicking field goals. I started dying laughing. It was 4 years since high school. I hadn't other than to show Caleb that kicking's not that hard. Sure. I can just hit it. It's not that hard. But I had not kicked in a live situation in 4 years. So I started laughing, and we're playing Alabama on the road in Tuscaloosa. Was not prepared for that conversation to happen. So I'm like, okay, all right, well, I better get out there. So go out to practice, went perfect, in the first day, and the guys are like, all right, you're ready, you're good. Yeah. Then I think I had a horrible Wednesday, horrible Thursday, and I think coach is like, all right, what else we got? Like, this is we may be going for it. We're going for it here. Had a pretty decent Friday, and then went in the game and went 2 for 2. We scored 6 points that game. So that was at 35-6. It was a tough one. But I had a great punting. I had a great game.
Yeah.
But going back to the Georgia, so I had a great game there, and then I missed 3 kicks in a row, and 2 of them being it was the first time we actually lost a homecoming game in, I want to say, 30 years. We lost to Mississippi State 10-7, and I missed that kick, and then we played LSU, I think, next, and missed that kick. It was a game winner right down here. I was talking with Coach Spurrier about it earlier. He was pointing out where he won the 66 Heisman over here. He knows his spot. I was like, well, that's funny. I know my 27-yarder that I missed against LSU right over here. I was really down, and I remember Jeremy Foley pulled me aside and talked to me after the game, and I was really distraught. But we had a great team. I mean, with the Pouncies, with Brandon, with Tebow. I mean, everybody just lifted me up, and this isn't the end of the road. Like, we got a lot more football to play, and I'll never forget it. I had it for years, and Verizon erased my phone a couple of years ago. But I had a message from Jeremy Foley that he left me the Sunday after we lost to LSU, and he goes, listen, nobody's going to remember that game. They're going to remember the next one, the next game, and we're playing Georgia. They're going to remember that game. He must have been a truth teller. He had a crystal ball or something. But, yeah, we go to overtime, hit the game winner. It was a walk-off, get carried off like Rudy. And, that was pretty cool. And Jeremy, I never forget that. I mean, it's a very special group here at the university from the very top down.
Yeah, certainly is. And then, obviously you guys get a title. You got a ring. And in that 08 title game, I think you had 3 punts and averaged 51, 52 yards a punt. So
yeah, the first one
was going good.
First one was good. I had I think I actually held the SEC record for a year, and then I broke it the next year in 09, and I think they got broken the next year. But it was SEC going back home and playing in Atlanta and in my home state was a lot of fun.
You mentioned Spikes is here. Where's Brandon at? There he is. Hall of Famer as well here tonight. So he's a part of that team. And just a few years ago, it was him and Spikes and Brandon James, and we get them into the Hall of Fame. They probably made fun of you because everybody makes fun of kickers. But, I mean, how cool was it just to be around that team and that atmosphere and just the vibe and what the locker room was?
There were some pretty average players on that team, I would say. I think some of them were still playing 14, 15 years later in the NFL. No, it was an unbelievable group. I mean, we look at the 06 recruiting class with Brandon and Tebow and Percy and Brandon. I mean, you probably go through 25 of them that were here. And it was a different era than it is now, right? I mean, we were at one school, and we made a commitment to that school. We were there, and I'd say it was the better times. Maybe an old guy now, but that was the better times whenever you had that. And but we had some amazing special players all the way through that I was here, and a lot of them are here tonight, and I'm very fortunate for that.
Kickers always, probably have some downtime. Although Urban was pretty big on special teams, so maybe you guys did a little bit more. But like, what are some of the things you goofed off with at practice?
Cap baseball. I did. So my senior year, we actually got in quite a bit of trouble for this. The baseball team was out there. Preston probably left something out there on the field. They left some bases out. But we were pretty bored out there because we're done before practice even starts.
Yeah.
So special teams is actually over before session number 1 begins. So we're sitting out there, we're kind of bored. What are we going to do? Well, we found a baseball bat, and we found bases that were laying around, and we played wiffle ball for the entire time. So while Spikes is slamming up against the Pouncies, and you got, Tim's running into walls over here, everything's going nuts, we're over here playing cap baseball. So the strength coach comes over to me, and he goes, hey, listen, Coach isn't really thrilled with you guys playing cap baseball when it's 105 degrees and the guys are over here sweating and dying over here.
Yeah.
You want to tone it down a little bit? I was like, all right, we'll go behind the shed over here and go play. So
there you go. Yeah. Don't let it be seen.
Yeah.
Something I'd like to see. I don't think it's doable because, I mean, we sit here and you look at this stadium, how incredible it is, 90,000 people. But I always wonder, because I sit up there in the radio booth and when you guys punt, the ball comes above us. Do you think you could stand here and kick it out of the stadium, or is that impossible?
I've touched the tops of those stadiums many times. No,
right.
I don't want to do that either.
That's it's fascinating. Some of these
they get up there pretty high. I will say there's a couple of moments I remember. Night games here especially because the lights really it's pretty special here in the swamp. Here in the swamp, and even I talked to guys after I was done here, and we'd always talk about what was our favorite stadium playing in. Anybody that ever played here in Florida, it was always Florida. LSU is one of those two schools, and those games were always really special. And I remember we played LSU. I think it was my senior year here, and I hit a ball. I was in the back of the end zone, and I hit a ball. And as soon as I hit it, I think I even said to myself, I was like, "Ooh, that was a good one." And you can see it just soaring up through, and I'm like, "That's pretty high." And then I was actually trying to look how high is that up there? So it's a good question. I don't know.
Yeah. I also remember a few years ago they actually had Topgolf, and you could hit it onto the field. It was up in the north end zone there. Yeah. So I mean, kickers, pitchers, we're all like stud golfers. So are you a pretty good golfer?
I'm a pretty good golfer. A lot of my free time now is spent on the course, but I think it's because we don't really do a lot after that first 15 minutes. We had a lot of free time on our hands.
Yeah.
So I'd like to say we have amazing hand-eye coordination, and we really zone in on that and practice that. But I think it's just because we're bored a lot, and we just got to go out there and go play some golf.
Yeah. Well, obviously, the people here tonight aren't bored. They're excited to be here, support you. So give out some thanks to everybody you got here.
Yeah, I've got a lot of friends and family here. First and foremost, I've got my wonderful wife and my 14-month-old daughter, Savannah. There she is. She's piping up now. It's a little past her bedtime, so she wants Dad to wrap it up a little bit.
Yeah.
But I've got my mother, my sister, my brother-in-law, and then their 2 kids, Weston and Layton, my sister-in-law, Lindsay, my father-in-law, Steve, and then got some friends in the back table. I've got Cam, Brittany, and Corinne, and and John, and then we've got the Gator greats over there, the kicking legends.
The kickers.
Starting with Judd and Zach Brust and John Crowfoot, who you did see him on that picture. That hold was phenomenal, John. It's one of the best holds in Florida Gator history, so I appreciate that. And then obviously Caleb being a Gator great as well.
Yes, so much. Well, now you are one of those, man. Hall of Famer Chaz Henry, everybody. Congratulations.
So much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.